So we're doing one of these. Okay. This is probably going to take quite a few takes. We'll see. We'll see. Might be first. Alright, very clearly, this is not going to be my normal type of content. If you're looking for the gaming, you can watch 3,000 other videos that I've posted. Today is all about me and the black community, the community of color, the community that is discriminated on a very daily basis. So I wanted to jump in and explain. I feel like I have a duty to explain to people about my experiences, what's happened to me, some of it, because I would be here for decades to explain all of it. Now, before we do properly dive in, I just want to give a few links and stuff. There's a link down below to sign petitions. There's a link for donations. You can click that link, and you can even watch just a YouTube playlist. And this YouTube playlist will basically it's all money that they make on those videos is going to go to causes for Black Lives Matter in case of getting people out of paying for people's bail, that kind of stuff. If they're just protesting peacefully and the like. If you're musically inclined, I would highly recommend Run the Jewels 4, just released. Banger! Amazing! I love it, and I would highly recommend you check that out. It's free because of the whole situation, and they're taking donations, and all money is going to Black Lives Matter causes. Now, here's the first thing I want to say, is that my emotions are all over the place for the past while. It's something I've been able to do for a long time, which you'll learn a little bit later, is that I can push down emotions quite well, but I'm not. Recently, I've just not been able to know if I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, because I'm all those things. Like, my brain is all over the place. I've been more emotional than I ever have in my life. Happy crying is prominently here, but I am also getting old. 25. So, that could be something to do with it too. All money from this video, very clearly, will be going to the cause. Just to make that clear. I will be donating myself to causes in the link that I even mentioned down below to support black business, because I think that is where I personally would like to help the most, because we got to support the foundation, possibly, of some new businesses. Anyway, I feel the need to justify myself in this situation. I want to say the whole Black Lives Matter is a thing because they matter less currently than the majority. At least in America, and I'd say mostly America, but again, me trying to justify the UK and a bunch of other places as well. There's a lot of racism embedded in America's core. And I don't ever want to say that the UK is just as bad, because it really isn't. It's not as bad. I'm not dead. I'm not dying. And that's sad to say in such an easy way. It's just, I shouldn't be able to say that. The fact is, our police, I've never had issues. Police have always, I feel safe around police. Police presence makes me feel safer. And the fact that Americans can't feel that breaks my damn heart. So, where do we begin with my stuff? I've got a little notes that I've made just because I don't want to repeat myself. I want to try and keep this quite concise and compact. So, first things first. Here's my first opener. And I mentioned on some tweets a few of these things. So if you've seen those, there are some of those, but there's more stuff in here. The first thing I want to say is I do notice you turning around to check on me often, or every of the bajillion times that you've done it when I'm walking in the same direction as you. Now, I get it. If someone was walking behind me and it seemed like they were following me, I get the whole, oh yeah, I'm trying to justify again. Can you see? It's embedded in my damn head. Realistically, you're checking more so on me because I'm a tall male, sure, but because I'm also black. it's something I notice. It's many of the things that I notice day to day are like this. This is the majority of it in the UK. Now, of course, it's different experiences in different areas. I've moved from the very north to the south, and to the south, it's a lot more accepting. There's a lot more wealth, and I feel like education is higher, and so on. Generally, don't get me wrong, of course, it's... Let's not get into that. This ain't about politics. This is about I matter. I should matter just as much. I have just as much right. I need to stop. I feel that I don't have as much right to be here. I feel like I have to try harder than most. I know I have to try harder than most to achieve things. This list is going to take forever if I don't start. So yes, I do notice you checking behind constantly. I notice, especially now, more prominent than ever, because we're distancing, social distancing in queues. The 2-meter rule is different for different places, but there's a 2-meter rule. I know what 2 meters is. It's quite easy because you're like, oh, it's like 6 foot something. I'm about 6 foot. Just picture myself laying down. Very easy. Very nice. But there's lines on the floor to show you where to stand. And this is a thing even without this social distancing. I know for a fact that when I'm in the queue and there's about 50, 60 people, this happened just the other day at IKEA, distancing outside, lining up. And I'm distancing on the line and the next person's on the line. Everyone's on the line, except the person behind me that is 2 or 3 lines back. Why? You think I'm going to turn around and, like, say something to you? I've never quite understood that one, especially when especially when there was no distancing whatsoever, and that still happens. To the point where if I walk on a train, I feel like, should I sit next to this person? We abolished the whole blacks have to sit at the back of the bus thing, but I still feel, oh, I'll stand up instead, because I'd feel that anyway, because I'm like, you know, elderly people may want to sit down, but I don't want to sit next to someone in the case I make them uncomfortable. And that's always there. Bus, train, underground usually is the London Underground. So I'm like, oh, I can stand for an hour. But I'm also just nice. I feel like people that need to sit down should sit down. I'm like, so there's a mix in here, of course. One other thing I do is if I'm with another person, I will aim. My friend Jordan, he came to me and said the exact same thing. Like he agreed with me that he has to do this as well. I'm quite well spoken. My voice is quite nice. Debatable, but it's not aggressive. I mean, I never sound aggressive. Even when I try to sound aggressive, I probably sound quite squeaky and I don't sound aggressive in the way I speak. I'm quite clear in my speaking and so on. And so I feel like it's a superpower almost that some people don't have. You can't choose your accent. You can't pick and choose. I have to tell myself that. And sometimes I hate the way I sound because I've been bullied for that as well. But I use it as a superpower in that, as I said, I speak louder in the presence of other people. If I notice some people seem somewhat uncomfortable, I'll speak a little bit louder and I'll say something like, as though I'm probably normally having a normal conversation, but I'll say it a little bit louder. And some people don't notice that. I've explained it to friends and they're like, I've noticed that most of them haven't noticed, but some of them are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I now clock it that you've said it. So yeah, I use my voice as a power to kind of make people know that I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm just, and I say something nicer or whatever. A constant need to make sure everyone is comfortable in my presence. That's kind of bundled into all of those things. Obvious checks at airports and stuff is something that I'd say brown people suffer more from. And I'm on like that line. The lighting in this room is very aggressive, and that's I'm like, oh, I justify. I'm a seasonal brown man. I had one instance recently. It was recently. It was one time we went um, to Ghost. One of the last times we went to Ghost, and it was with, I can't remember. I was either with Jay Pennant, GV Peanut, or Straight Up Hippo Cam. I can't remember. It might have even been both. And essentially, we'd got through the airport, no problems. I've been through millions. I've been through hundreds and probably 1,000 times through airports, and I have some issues at first, extra checks and stuff. But like whatever. This one time was right as we were leaving. The final doors before you get into the lobby area where everyone is, the people with the signs. The final set of doors. Go through those, and there's a certain tunneling system there now, and you get through there, and this police guy comes up to us and is like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what am I doing? I've cleared customs, I've cleared everything I need to. Why are you now threatening me with your threatening voice?" We're here to play games. We're here to play Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. I've lost out on sponsorships. For the sake of, I know, it happens. It sounds reaching, but I know it's happened, and I know it will continue to happen. I think it's better now that PR agencies are more of a thing, and they are the middle companies are quite young. When it comes to the issue, I think it's more older industries, newer, younger industries. I feel like they have less issue. It's very multicultural. If you're in development, for example, it's less of an issue. But again, this is me justifying. I need to stop. The fact it's a thing at all, I hate it. And I know it's happened to other people because I know it's happened to me. Walking down the street, being called Woghead, and BlackPanthaa. Sometimes for no reason, sometimes because they sort of exist, sometimes probably because I was a little bugger when I was younger. That one wasn't great. It wasn't nice. Very very uncomfortable. There are my sister posted the other day, there's memories that she had of us crying, me, my brother and sister crying because we're black, because we wanted to be white, normal. We wanted to be normal. Those weren't great memories. And that happens. I know other people go through this, and I think this is a good way to explain that to people that don't know this is a thing. And I know that this happens not just because of race, but also because of size and shape and a bunch of other things that you can't really change. And I get that. But with shape, I feel like that's something you should change. Like, of course, there's parts of your body you won't like and everything, but again, this is me justifying. You can't change this. I mean, it's possible, but you can't in the same way. Of course, you can go to the gym, you can start working out, you can lose some weight. Those are things that happen to me on top of the fact that the baseline, I am a black person. When people see me, they go, "That's a black person." They don't even maybe think sometimes, but they may feel more scared of me, and I hate that. I just want to be seen. I want to have equal opportunities. I want to be on the same playing field, if that makes sense. So, as I said, I was going to talk a little bit more about a story. I've taken enough of your time, so I want to concise this to be quite rapid fire. So we're going to jump in. And the very first experience with racism stuff in school was, again, it's all spotty, but for the most part, I do remember these the back parts because that's the bits you remember the most from school. It's great, isn't it? So I grew up in quite a white dominant area. I spoke to my dad about this a few times, and he said when he was growing up, this was in the 70s and 80s. Probably gonna kill me for saying that. But their family, my dad's family, and another family were probably the only black family in Grimsby at the time. The only. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine? These people had never seen a brown person in their lives. I remember things that my nana used to tell me that this person hasn't washed. Like a kid would say, has this person not washed? Is that why they're that colour? Like, they genuinely don't know. Of course, as a kid, I'm like, the kid, give the kid some leeway. Give the kid some leeway. Anyway, at first, my first initial memories, I went from a kind of really crappy area because of a few reasons. We moved. Mostly, it's just we moved to a different area around year 1 or 2. So I couldn't tell you the ages very well. But we moved to a different school, so I jumped into year 1, a brand new school, and people were so intrigued. People were interested. They were like, I've never seen a person like this before. They were interested. And here's the thing, I was totally for that. I was totally for people wanting to learn about me. The whole, you shouldn't ask someone to touch their hair. I didn't care because my hair was different. Now, of course, my experience was different in the fact that my mum is white. And so, of course, I knew the texture of her hair was different because she's my mum, and most of my mum's side of the family had different hair. And I'm pretty sure as a kid I would have been like, oh, can I feel the texture? It's a bit different. Of course, if you do it every 5 seconds, then it's a bit like, all right, come on. You know my hair's different now. But at that age, kids are interested. They want to know. They want to learn. They're sponges. They're ready to experience new things. And I don't remember really having any issues other than that I can flex a little bit here. I do remember one coming home crying from school. My mum tells me this all the time. I came home crying because of the fact that a kid said I had a big penis. He didn't say that. He said Willie. I'm gonna use that until the day I die. So I'm It was, as a kid, I was traumatized. Number one, why is he looking? All right. So at the beginning, it was great. It was people intrigued. And as it happened to adjust, people were fed more information, I think. As kids, they were like, oh, there's this different coloured person at school. And their parents ensued to fill them with absolute garbage. Because that's where it comes from. It comes from the parents, their parents, their parents, their parents. And I think it gets lesser with each generation. I look at the new generation now and I'm like, damn. I'm happy to see that the younger generation might not have to deal with it as hard. The fact they still have to annoys me. It became people that were aggressive, jealous, because I had quite a bit of female interest in the younger years. I was a bit of a player, the business, you know how it is. But again, kids were intrigued, they were interested. But I was probably the only black person they've ever seen. And I wasn't even fully black. But I was the only person of colour they've probably ever seen. In the whole year 1 to 6, I remember one other black girl. And she left after a year. Probably because she was bullied. It's pretty sad, actually. I felt like a connection because I was like someone that's different as well. So, in terms of things getting pretty bad in terms of bullying and stuff because of it, I retaliated a lot because I had quite a long. I'm quite good at dealing. I was quite good at the time of dealing with a few things, but eventually I just snapped and I just retaliated every chance that I get. And punishment wasn't really bad. I have to say the primary school was the best experience in terms of them listening to me and doing their best to help me. In every situation, they helped me as much as they could and actually explained things to me properly and so on. So much better than secondary school. So much better. But it did get to a point where I think it was probably year 5. So I'm going to say 10 years old or something from the top of my head. And it got to the point where I was pretty bad. Reacted as soon as someone said something. And very aggressively because I just had it. I just had it. I've been told the whole, oh, just ignore them. They're not they're worse than you for doing this type of thing and so on. But it's like, come on, that ain't enough. I don't see them properly getting penalized for what they're doing. And they need to be. I don't know how it is now. Again, this is why I'm sharing my experience, and hopefully I get to see some experiences now of kids now and so on in the comments and the like. Let me know how it is. Again, this is all in Grimsby. This is a very white dominated place. And so I went to like an anger management school, like a special school for the sake of dealing with very angry children. And I remember some of those kids, I'm going to say, they're absolutely mental. I did not want to be there. I remember getting to the end of the first term. I was there for 2 terms, I believe. I got to the end of the first term, and they were like, that's where your review is. And they were like, yeah, nah, you're still not quite there. We need a bit more work. This school was insane. This school would literally, when a kid misbehaved, lock them in a room for I don't know how long it was, but they would just lock you in a room. And in the room, it was kind of like they had bookshelves, books, and a beanbag, and that's it. It was a big room, bigger than this room here. And it had like palm trees and a beach painted on the wall, bright blue skies. And you're just like, this is insane. This does not help in any shape or form. Maybe it did, but this makes me feel like an absolute mental case. And this was just me, again, most of the time retaliating to something someone else has said. And most of the time I would see that me retaliating would again get me into more trouble than the person that initiated it, because someone would say something, I would say something back. Someone would say something, and I'd probably thump them. I was tall, I was big, I could take people. I was quite slim, but I could take people because of my height. And I used that to my advantage. Anyway, that school was mental, and I've done therapy because I've done not because of that, but I've done therapy, and we figured out that was a core point into where it messed with me hugely. And this was all caused because of the fact that the teachers didn't really know how to deal with this kind of situation. Being bullied about something that you cannot physically change. Being bullied about being the only one with this issue. Physically the only one in this whole school. So I did 2 terms there. It felt like forever. In the end, I was quite sad to leave the school. I got like an attachment to some of the people there, and the teachers honestly ended up being super sweet, and they would reward you for doing good things. So it was a really messed up time. They even bought scooters and stuff to use in the yard. It was interesting. I think you finished school earlier, so I quite like that as well. Anyway, get back into the normal school. Everything returns to normal. And at this point, we figured out through therapy that this point was the point where I now suppress emotion. I can hide things almost manically. To the point where if someone would start saying something to me after that, because it happened many times after that, I could just sit there and smile. I could just sit and laugh it off, which felt like a superpower. It still feels like a superpower. I've now got to the point now through therapy, as I say, to be able to push that aside and actually have emotions, which is kind of nice too. And I can cry and be... I could again have emotions before, but I knew how to control them and block certain things affecting me. We got rid of most of that wall, which was nice in therapy, which I would very much suggest. Even if you think there's nothing wrong with you, I didn't think anything of it up until the point when I went to therapy. Highly recommend, especially to my black brothers and sisters that have had issues themselves, because it helped me tremendously. It's helped me tremendously, and I would still want to go once all this stuff's over. We can actually meet a therapist again. I very much want to do that again, because it helped clarify and clear a lot of things from my mind. Anyway, secondary school was easier due to my newfound power, as I've written down here. But I could basically keep a cap on my anger, whereas before it would just burst very quickly because it had just been overflowing. It shrunk in size, my patience. There was a lot of minor instances. There was being written in one of my school books, and it was an English book, and I told the teacher, and all I was told was, oh, they didn't even spell it right. That was it. End of it. No, oh, let's look into who did this. Nothing. Not even a lie, a white lie to tell me that they're going to pretend to look into this. They genuinely just said, it's spelt wrong. Great. That makes the whole situation so much better. Thanks so much. Still don't know who did that. I got a brand new bike for my birthday. Brand new bike. Love that bike. I used to bike 2 miles to school there and then back 2 miles every day. And I loved it. It was like my semi-freedom for a while. And I loved this bike. It had disc brakes. I was like, damn, this is amazing. Now thinking back to it, that bike cost quite a bit. First day I took it, my seat was stolen. And I knew who did it because I got told who did it. And he did it for malicious intent of the fact I was different. I pointed out to the head teacher who took my bike seat. I pointed them out. They were physically there. He laughed and smirked as I did it, and they did nothing. They didn't even talk to him. There's no proof. Why are there no cameras in this bike shed? Right. I remember multiple occurrences of being pushed off my bike on the way to school, and they're like, that's a little side note. Just because. I was quite a peaceful person. I am quite a peaceful person, but if you start on me, I'm a react, and I'll do some damage. At least attempt to. Not anymore. I'm a changed man. I'm a pacifist. I'm not. Any retaliation didn't ever come to equal. Again, for retaliating, I would be put in isolation. At one point, I think I was in isolation for like a week straight for retaliating properly. That felt good. It felt worth it, to be honest with you. So I was okay with it at that point. We didn't learn about slavery in school. Nothing. It wasn't even touched on. I learned from it from other black males or females in my life. Movies. Educated by movies about slavery more than I did from school. And again, I guess I get it. Secondary school, just to be clear, there were more. There's a couple brown, couple of black. I think overall you could count the non-white people on your 2 hands, maybe on 1 hand, 2. And so again, this was some people's first experience with someone that isn't just white. Like, what? A person doesn't have to be white? And there were stupid little remarks every now and again that bugged me at the time. And the teacher just didn't say anything. Like, oh, do you poo white? Some idiot at the back of the class would say. And everyone would laugh. And I'm just there, like, ignoring it. Because I've learned my new power. Teacher says nothing. Nothing is said. Nothing is done. They didn't even speak to that kid. Just things like that. And it's still, as I say, not mandatory to be taught slavery in school. They even have to talk about it. They even touch upon it. They don't have to touch upon it. Ridiculous. So, where does that leave us? Right at the end of my list. I have to say I'm grateful that I am not in America. For the sake that I don't have to be worried about police. I don't have to be worried about running around my block and being shot. I don't have to worry about any of these things. But I still have things to worry about. And I thought I would explain how it is in the UK. As I said, I've now moved further south into a more, I feel, like wealthy, accepting sort of area. And I have noticed huge changes every single time I've moved further south. Police aren't allowed police don't walk around with weapons. They walk around with like nightsticks, batons, whatever you want to call them. And every single time I've been around police, the only time I've seen them with police was when there was like attacks on the UK, and they would be on high alert, and they would make you feel safe. It would make you feel so safe because these are people you trust. You genuinely feel trust for UK police. And if you don't, I feel like you've done something wrong for the most part. I don't want to say that because I know there are some bad eggs. There always will be. But from my experience, never, ever, ever had an issue with the police. Always felt safe and comfortable around them. How do you come up with a solution? My friend asked me the other day, like, what do you think should be the aims of these protests? What do you think the end result should be? And of course, the rioting isn't helping. The rioting isn't helping in terms of attacking police officers, looting, and so on. Stupid. Ridiculously stupid. But the police are being insane in America. I've seen clips. You can't escape it. It's all that's going on right now. And so that's why I'm making this video. But how do you solve this? Now, I've seen the demands, some of the demands. I think those are the demands in the US. And that's not enough. I think for the US, yes, it's a step. But we need to educate. We need to educate people. I think that's the best way. And the only other thing I can actually say, which is really, really sad, because there's always going to be something. My whole lifetime, there's always going to be discrimination. I think the best way to describe the UK is a racial bias more so than actual racism, like hardcore implanted. For example, like America, we have a very racial bias. There is something here, and there will always be racist people, or people that are just stupid and not racist, they're just idiotic, and that's the first thing they jump to use as an insult to upset you. Of course, that happens all the time. The only other solution I can think of to solve the issues that we have is for people to move on. And what I mean by that is, with each passing generation, it seems like we get more accepting in terms of gay rights, gay marriage, in terms of accepting other races. Each generation, we become a more mixed generation. We don't know all of our ancestry unless you do a DNA test at this point. I'm from all over the place, of course. And America's like, oh, I'm from Europe. We're going to end up mixing. There's going to be a lot of crazy mixtures coming out, and I'm excited for that. I think that's healthy. Is there going to be a point where there's not one single person that goes, I'm a white person? Because you would have to list, I'm these 20 mixtures. I think the best solution is with each passing generation, we just get more accepting. There's people that I know with very racist parents. Even my mum's side, I think there were some people that would obviously implant these type of ideas into your brain, but clearly that didn't work so well. Did it? There's things all the time of, the best solution is for us to just keep pushing on. And I know that sounds like, to me, other than educate, is there really anything else we can do other than wait for those people to move on, to pass on? And that's all I can think of. And of course, there's probably much better ways to get change, but educate and so on. And I'm grateful that adverts nowadays have like mixed race people in them, or black people in them, and so on. There's more prominent black face. The fact I still cannot believe that America had a black president. Love him or hate him, I still cannot believe it. I am happy with how the UK is politically currently. I will say that. I think it's a very balanced place in terms of politics. I'm a very middle-based person, so I'm quite content right now, is what I'll say. But in terms of political climate in the US right now, the president is declaring war on his own people, declaring war against the First Amendment, which is the point of America almost. It's just insane. Referring to everyone as thugs and so on, as if they're not actually just asking to be heard. All they want is the leader to go, yeah, we know there's issues. We're going to do our best. We're going to come up with a plan. We're going to do this plan. And not just, yeah, we're going to send in the military. Great. That's perfect. Thanks so much. Right. You've listened to me enough. I was like, oh, this would be a nice 10-minute video. Bit longer than I thought. Thanks so much for listening to me, though. If you got stories, please do share. I do want to listen. I do want to learn. And yeah, links down below to stuff as I mentioned. I will see you tomorrow for a normal gaming video. Until next time, my friends, stay safe. Be careful out there. And let's see where this takes us. This is a pivotal moment in history, I feel like. And the fact that we have something like this is awesome. Because it's like, oh, well, back in my day. Well, wait. Back in my day, there were some serious issues too. Apparently. Alright, thanks so much. I love you and leave you. Peace.